man, am I happy that Sniper has an older brother. Not Viper, the pro player, but an even older brother that's willing to hold him accountable if he tries to walk back on some of his promises. Brother, I know you might be nervous, but you can't play like that. And more importantly, you can't back out on something that you say on social media. Bamboozle equals bamboozle. You nearly got yourself got. But luckily, it didn't happen.
These beautiful things that I've
Yes, welcome back to the Rendezvous, folks. Your source for everything 100 Thieves League of Legends each and every week. And luckily, we're starting it off with a dub. The expectation was to beat Disguised. I don't think anybody here thought that we would drop more than one game. And even that, it still wasn't really all that much of an expectation for us to really kind of lose to them in any way. And luckily we didn't. But there are some notable callouts from this series. First and foremost, Sniper, as mentioned in the intro, promised to shave his head if we did lose. He walked it back in the pregame interview, and you could just tell in the first game, first 15 minutes, my man was playing nervous because he had to hold himself accountable and he didn't want to lose his hair. He mentioned it briefly on pros, which I'll touch on a little bit later, but it was an off day for him, clearly. I wasn't sure about the Jace into Mbessa matchup early on, given that Jace could be ranged, but apparently Mbessa actually is a counter to Jace, especially considering Jace was first pick, and it sure was not played like that. But it still got the win at the end of the day. When it came to team fights, Sniper clearly was doing his thing on Mbessa, was able to get kills. There was a play around bot lane whenever we had Otacon that was actually really good on Sniper's part, where he pulled everybody down there, stalled for enough time for the team to collapse on them, and then we just wiped the fight. It was really, really well done by Sniper, drawing enough attention. So yes, the early game one woes were recovered later. Game two, decently solid from him. I wouldn't say the greatest overall day, but hey, as long as you get the dub, you can have bad days. Ask any Chiefs fan if they would trade any of their wins that were close and looked bad during the regular season. They wouldn't. The clear standouts from this series, though, were FBI, Quid, and Ayla. And I want to call specific attention to Ayla because we have a lot of discussions whenever he played bad last year. The media called him out constantly. That game one Poppy, freaking incredible. Literally only died at the end, but had perfect engages at almost every single moment. Was catching people out. His slams against the walls were great. There was one where he slammed a minion, which was hilarious. But beyond that, fantastic. I want to give him his stars, even though FBI is going to be the player that stands out from this series. His VARs dealt damage. For every bit that Sniper was falling behind, FBI was getting ahead. Now granted, it was against Scary Jerry, who had a fairly rough debut performance, and that will not be the case this upcoming weekend where FBI gets that easy of a matchup. But it was a good sign that he's able to put away the opponents that he needs to, and that's something that we can build upon going forward. That is a solid bot lane that did good from minute one. If bot lane can now give us a win con, that opens up a lot in our drafting, in our play, in this entire year. Game two from everyone definitely was a little bit more hit or miss, but the standout was Quid on his Akali. There were many times where he is just applying pressure to dive the backline, to kill the Jinx, to just wipe out the carries on DSG, to the point where there was a team fight at the very end where it was okay, why is Castle just being left hung out to dry whenever Castle did an absurd amount of damage on Rumble in that fight? Well, the answer was Quid was threatening to kill everybody in that moment that they were so scared to go in. Now, again, a more experienced team, somebody that's willing to pull the trigger a little bit more, might actually be able to collapse in that moment and make something out of it. So still things to work, but you can't complain at the end of the day. You really can't. It was a good performance all around. Mid bot jungle absolutely carried that. River had a much more quiet series. I'm still not sold on the Viego for him. The Xin Zhao was also decent, but overall just very quiet relative to pop-off performances from her bot lane. But after the series was over, I did get the chance to talk to our coach Goldenglue, pick his thoughts on the series, revisit that Worlds series against R7 because it's the first time I've gotten the chance to talk to him since last year. So let's kick it over to the conversation. You are already live now before anything gets said that would potentially get you in trouble.
I'm really sad that they heard me say hello to you already.
No,
that was just for me and you. That was just for me and you, David.
I know it's supposed to be special, but you
Kidding,
got to show some love to the people. How you feeling?
What up, Chad?
How's everything going? How's the off season? We haven't talked in a bit.
Honestly, everything's pretty good. I think off season was pretty busy because obviously we changed the roster a little bit and we did a lot of traveling. We went to Worlds, boot camp for Worlds, then we boot camped again for the start of the split. I got to go to vacation in Japan, went snowboarding in Japan. That was awesome.
It looked amazing from the pictures that you
Yeah.
posted.
Yeah, that was sick. But season's going well. Practice is going well. I feel like we're pretty locked in. I think today we still had some nerves when we showed up on stage, but I think we still showed that like I don't think we played necessarily our best, and I still think we had pretty good form. Like we still were able to 2-0 like relatively easily. I think if we play how we did today against Team Liquid, I'm not sure we're going to come out on top, but I think that the mistakes we made were pretty apparent, and when we were going to review, like even the guys kind of knew it. Like our team fighting, I think in game 2, we had the really good like setup and really good positioning, but then we just kind of like flopped some of the execution. And I think that if we just like focus on our team fighting, we'll be able to take out TL. Well, I mean TL versus Dig.
Yeah,
Who knows?
assuming that. Is there you think any chance we get an upset on that? I mean, I know by the time this interview goes live on YouTube, it'll be done, but like, is there any chance TL loses? Is there like anything that we should be wary of in upsets in general? Or is it just actually the top 4 of C9, you guys, TL, FlyQuest, and then everybody else?
I think top 4 is pretty solid. Yeah. So I mean, I think upsets in the top 4 are pretty interesting. Like can C9 like upset FlyQuest? And like I would say people probably power rank TL higher than us, but I still think we can upset them and beat them. So I do think it's going to be a pretty big upset if any of those top 4 lose to the other 4 teams.
What's your guys' expectations for this year in general? I don't think I've seen any interviews or clips of anybody like kind of setting a benchmark, but like last year we talked at this point, it was like, okay, by summer, the goal is to make Worlds. Like that's all that we care about. It's like building to the end of the year. What are the benchmarks this year? Is it still just end of the year? Are there midway points? What are we working with?
Yeah. So for expectation, obviously you kind of touched on last year. We were definitely more of a growing roster. And I think for us going to Worlds last year was like our moonshot goal. It wasn't like that was the expectation. That was like the moonshot goal. I think this year, like we don't feel like it's definitely not a moonshot goal to make Worlds, although it is a lot harder, if I recall, because there's like less spots and we have to fight.
Only 2 can go.
Yeah, only 2 can go. So it's still like it's pretty difficult, I think. But that is definitely the goal. And it's not like I don't think that's a moonshot. And I think this is the year where we definitely feel like we can win. We feel like we can win each split. So obviously like we're just going full on and full power, and that's why we boot camp for the season. And we've already had like 2 months of practice before even this match. We're aiming to win and win it all.
Okay, good to hear. I like the bar's a lot higher this time around.
Yeah. I think for us, like the first thing is just qualify top 4, make sure we make it to Brazil. That's like the full focus right now. But obviously, I think the goal is to win it all.
If you make top 4, you go to Brazil. You kind of have to conquer some demons that arose from last year.
We do.
I hate to go back, but I gotta ask you about that. Like, what was the World's experience like? Like, we saw the vlog, but like behind the scenes, like, what was the takeaway after that series dropped? After like everything that kind of happened?
Yeah, obviously, Worlds was a pretty stressful time because I think the expectations were kind of always shifting to where like we're so happy we're there, but now that we're there, we felt like there was a lot more pressure on us to compete. Even though we should kind of, I mean, a lot of people thought, oh, we're kind of free rolling, and then I think when it comes to obviously our matches versus R7, I think it showed like some of our weaknesses as like just as a team. Like we did show up and we weren't connected and we didn't have the right like total game plan. I think a lot of the times we just relied on like our players being like more individually skilled than the others, like Quid and Sniper just kind of popping off and having like crazy moments. I don't think we were very we didn't have like very solid macro, very solid team play. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from that tournament was kind of like how we deal with stress and pressure. Because I definitely felt we were a lot more tense for R7. There's a lot more a fear of losing rather than like excited to upset like C9 how we did. So I think it was a really good experience for playing in an international. Like you have to also be able to deal with like you're eating different foods and you're like different time zone, you're jet lagged. Like a lot of things change a lot. A lot of things change compared to when we're on our normal schedule. We're very routine when we're in Los Angeles and we're boot camping every week. So it was really good practice for Sniper, and it was really good practice for a lot of our guys. It was their first time going to Worlds. And I think we will bear that mark for the rest of our lives that we lost that match. But it's definitely a way that whenever we feel like the inklings of complacency, we just think back to that match, and then it's easy to push on forward.
Speaking of practice, Blippo's been making a lot of noise about it. I personally have been making a lot of noise about it. Streaming scrims. What's your thoughts on it? Like, is it something that we could see happen? We're seeing FlyQuest vocally ask for a partner to stream scrims with. Is that something we can get from 100 Thieves? Are you guys against it? Like, where do you stand on the whole topic?
Yeah, I was. We were discussing the streaming scrims, right? Because I heard that FlyQuest was interested, and obviously we were like discussing it and talking about it. Did the camera just go out of focus? Anyway, am I still in focus?
Yeah, if you like put your hand up and then like drag it back, it should. No, that thing just went completely. That thing just went entirely. Oh well. Oh, there we go.
Whatever. It's okay. So for me, it's like a hard no right now because we need to make top four. And like going even to this match, right? We didn't see any matches of DSG. Like we didn't know what they prioritize. We don't know what they are practicing. I think when it comes to the streaming scrims, it's just like it's a timing thing. I think in off season, or in preseason, I think it's totally fine. Like if we did it while we're in Korea boot camping, I would have been totally fine to stream those scrims. When we're going into like basically a playoffs immediately, I'm not streaming any scrims. Like I don't want to leak it. It's just a competitive disadvantage, even though I do think it's great for the fans. So it's just like when do we feel like we can take like a competitive disadvantage, and that's like early in the preseason, like maybe in regular season when you're already so far ahead, that kind of thing.
So
and your playoff spot is already pretty guaranteed.
So fine then if it's a competitive thing and you don't want to leak anything there. But what's the trade-off then? Like what else needs to happen then on the content front for us to grow this thing? Because we all want to see the league succeed. A lot of that does come off the back of we don't have the personalities like Bjergsen and Doublelift and crew, and the new era of talent kind of shelters up and doesn't be as forward-facing on camera as the older generation used to be. What do we have to do to offset it then if you guys want to keep scrims private like that?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I do think the one thing is if you could get every team to do it, I think it'd be fine because then it'd be a net neutral competitive thing. But if you only have two teams doing it, that's when it's like a competitive disadvantage. So like to make that happen, if you could somehow get every team to agree, I think it's fine because the thing about competition is as long as everything's fair, so as information is equal.
So if we got every team then to agree to one public scrim block a week, that's it. You'd be okay with it?
Yeah, I'd be totally fine with it.
All right, I know what my new goal is. I know what I can push for everybody to do. That noted. That's all I want.
Yeah, there you go.
Final thing I got for you is just what are you looking forward to most this season?
What am I looking forward to most? I'm really looking forward to playing against the other top teams. Definitely FlyQuest and TL. Obviously, it feels like rosters are for the most part staying the same for the last year. So to see how like our matchups have grown and developed over 2 years with like everyone making like slight alterations, right? We've changed our AD carry. I'm really excited because I feel like now we can finally go toe to toe with like the big teams in the league.
You've now also given the Aussie advantage in the locker room. It's what, 3 Aussie, 2 American, 2 Korean. So you've given up full control over to them.
One Canadian. I'm the only American.
Never mind. You screwed yourself.
Yeah, we have so many Australians, man. Like I sometimes just like speak in a really bad Australian accent during the day and just like, oh yeah, just like dumb stuff like that. Honestly, though, I do love my Aussies.
The C word hasn't picked up in your vocabulary yet? You haven't scarred your mom at all?
Not in an interview.
Okay, good for you. Good for you for keeping it clean. I think we're right at the time limit, so I got to let you go. Congrats on the win, man. Anything else you want to put out there for the 100 Thieves fans?
No, just keep on. Thank you for the support. Really appreciate you guys. I know it's been like a kind of wild, I don't know, a couple months since like, all the like ownership news and blah, blah, blah. But, I think we're just still out here doing our best, trying our best. And I still feel like 100 Thieves is supporting us really well. Not very many teams boot camps in off season. We were one of them. So, just thank you for all the support. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time, man. Enjoy the afternoon. Hopefully do a shoey here at the end if you win it all.
A shoey, no shot.
No, I'm already committed to it. Come on, you got to do it with me.
Oh my god.
If you win it all,
Oh
come
my
on.
god.
If you win it
What
all, that's
about
the least we can do.
what if I have my Australian assistant coach do it instead?
No, we all got to do it. We all got to
We all
commit to
gotta
the
do it.
bit. Yeah.
I'll consider it. I'll consider it.
I'll take it for now. I'll convince you by the end.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. See you later,
All
man.
right. See ya.
Now, last week in our Around the Org section, I called out that the content side of 100 Thieves was crushing it. The video that they did of like agree, disagree was fantastic, but we actually got a whole nother video as well, which in my opinion might be one of the best org-wide videos that 100 Thieves has ever put out, which was a spelling bee of all the players. And man, was it hysterical the entire time. If you have not seen this video, be sure to go watch it. Drop a like, because if they hit 15K, they promised that they would do a Korean version, which would obviously benefit Quid and River disproportionately over everybody, because nobody else knows freaking Korean. And it would be hilarious because the two of them were obviously going to be at a disadvantage. I mean, even though they're learning English for sure, like, come on, an American spelling bee and putting the Korean players in there, dude, they were destined to fail. And I'm not going to spoil the result of the video. I'm just saying the other players for League of Legends did make us proud. And beyond that, the one other call out is that, yes, Sniper was on pros today. Well, today, as we're recording this Monday, Wednesday, when you're seeing this, it will be 2 days old. Deadass, it is like the best podcast that comes out of North America. Sniper runs his mouth the entire time. Throws Quid under the bus when it came to that 0-10 game at Worlds. Sorry, just got a Discord message from LTA Press. Wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything on that front. Other than that, really not much else going on around the org. Everybody's in season now. The games are going to be the thing that matters most. Which, speaking of, we have our first major series of the year this Sunday against Team Liquid to qualify for playoffs in Sao Paulo, Brazil. This is going to be a slobber knocker if I had to guess. I've always enjoyed our matchups against Team Liquid. For me, it is a little bit of a rivalry because I respect Team Liquid as an org a lot. It's always kind of felt like the two, like, new king. Like, if we're dividing the LTA and, like, the teams within it into, like, different subcategories, you have, like, the old vets like C9 and Dignitas, whether it's fair to put Dignitas in with C9. I think C9 might have a problem with that, but they're the orgs that have been around the longest. You have Team Liquid and 100 Thieves, who really came to fruition during like the beginning of the franchise era, made a name for themselves there, and have been the content orgs. So like we've always kind of been like the two butting heads there. You've got the streamer orgs now with both Shopify and Disguised. Yeah, I would probably put FlyQuest in with 100 Thieves and TL into like that category there. I mean, even though FlyQuest has been around for a while, it felt like them rebranding in 2018 kind of felt, I don't know where to put Fly. It's an interesting one. Anyways, it's getting off track. Point is, us and TL has always been a fun matchup for me. And Team Liquid looks more beatable than they have in quite a while. Everything that I saw in their series versus Dig, I'm thinking like, okay, if we're performing on the day, we could probably beat them. Now, do I think the version of 100 Thieves that we saw this past weekend is able to beat TL? No, I don't. A Sniper plays like he did in this series, like this, we stand no chance. Impact will be able to take advantage of that. So I'm expecting him to level up coming into this series. But TL's weak point clearly still was jungle. That Wukong did not look great on TL's part. So I think if you give Quid and River the opportunity to take advantage of and APA, yeah, I actually think we do stand a chance. We beat them in both the best of ones back in spring, but I think did we play them in playoffs? Yeah, we played them in playoffs, and I think we lost. So we've never won a best of series against this version of TL. We've won best of ones, but never a best of. And I think if we're going to do that, you do need to apply pressure to that weak point in jungle. We need River to have an on series. We need Quid to be able to get the better of APA, which we've seen that he can do, but he needs to do it over the course of an entire best of 3. On top of that, the main area that I'm looking at, the strong point for TL, but also kind of giving remnants back to 2021 a bit, is their bot lane. And now that we have FBI and our bot lane is looking a lot better after our first series, this is kind of giving me vibes of the first time I remember watching Core JJ and Tactical with that 2021 TL squad, and then FBI and Huhi kind of coming together and being like, okay, can this squad like actually compete? There was a game that I reference a lot of like that come to Jesus moment of like, okay, wait, this is actually a bot lane that can carry, that might actually be one of the best in the league, and that was like the Relvain game that Huhi and FBI played. I want to see a moment like that this week. Like, it doesn't have to happen. Obviously, we can still go to Sao Paulo even without beating TL, and all could be perfectly fine. But I legitimately do think that if we can step up, if FBI and Ayla can step up and neutralize what is like the very clear strong point for this team, barring top lane, yes, this series is winnable. Now, TL likes to pick early game, which is why a lot of our series do get messy with them very quick, because we like to make proactive plays early, or at least we did last year. TL just in their series against Dignitas, you saw a Draven pick, a Pantheon support pick, Renekton pop back up. So yes, we are seeing early game champions that they want to get a lead, they want to pounce on you and snowball it out of control. Their macro is pretty good other than when Umpty does run it a little bit. But we have the tools to be able to step up and beat them. Our macro does need to level up a bit, but I'm telling you, something about this screams it's possible. But the question is whether you can get all your stars to align early on. I don't know. I'm not going to be mad if we lose this game. Obviously, I'm going to be ecstatic if we do win it because it sets a pretty nice tone early on when everybody's expecting us to get beat. I don't think there's going to be a single analyst that picks us to win this series. And realistically, they shouldn't given our track record. But again, if the goal all year is going to be to become a contender, at a minimum, what we should be looking for from this series is for it to be close, for us to have signs to win, areas of improvement that we might need to make, but we want to be putting ourselves in positions that we can realistically win the game. We don't want to be winning Hail Mary 10K gold comebacks. Like, we want to be even in critical moments and either pull it off or maybe make a mistake or two that we can fix. That's what I want to see. That is what is entirely possible for this series. And who knows? Maybe next week at this point, we'll have a week off and can be celebrating a trip to Sao Paulo instead of having to worry about that series, likely against Shopify on the other side of the bracket. Thanks for watching. Be sure to drop a like down below, subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified of any time a video goes live on this channel. And thank you very much. I'll see you next time.